Good to go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to council meeting for May 28th, 2024. As we have quorum, I will call the meeting to order. The time is 6:59. Is it 7 now? Oh, the time is 7. Call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Always like to start the meeting off in a good way by acknowledging that the city of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territories of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. Madam Clerk, did you want to jump in on anything?
Thank you, Worship. Good evening. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of a council meeting is to enact powers given to council using bylaws or resolutions and is the venue for debate of issues before voting on a bylaw or resolution. For voting purposes, council has been provided with voting cards, green for in favor, red for opposed, and yellow for point of order. For members of the public who would like to speak, their opportunity to do so will be later in the meeting during the public question period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item. Is there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing no amendments, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Dode, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Any comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to adoption of the minutes for regular council meeting from May 14th, 2024, and report of public hearing from May 21st, 2024. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Schiller. Any comments, questions, errors, omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Excellent. Thank you very much. And moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Our first delegation this evening is from Steve Ranta with recommendations for actions to be included in the urban forest plan. And there is a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ranta. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you. The recommendations in my PowerPoint are not limited to potential inclusion in the urban forest plan. They could also become a policy or a guidance to staff or a practice. What do citizens of Maple Ridge want? Let's get this really simple. This is from, like all the information, unless otherwise noted, this is from the urban forest draft plan. These are pretty strong numbers. 91% of survey respondents favored increasing tree canopy cover over the next 20 years. Only 7% were happy with the current tree canopy. Only 16% of survey respondents were satisfied with the city's tree protection and preservation. Only 5% of survey respondents were satisfied with public education by the city regarding tree protection. Most of the recommendations are based around these fundamental findings of what the citizens of Maple Ridge desire. Their desires are supported by some statements in the draft plan. Lush urban forest is a defining characteristic of the municipality's identity. The OCP, which mentions the importance of natural features, including trees and forests, in building the community's character and enhancing quality of life, overall well-being. And again, the draft plan. The urban forest promotes healthy people, healthy communities, financial value, a sense of place, clean air and water, climate resilience, and habitat diversity. Recommendation 1. Given that 91% of citizens want more urban tree canopy, that the city target an increase in canopy cover by the urban forest from 38% to 50% by 2045. And recommendation 2, not as much information about this, but I believe the city should maintain or increase the canopy cover in non-urban areas. Next section, protecting and preserving trees. We've got a pretty good tree bylaw which was developed over a decade ago, with the idea behind that trees are an asset to the whole community. In that tree bylaw, permit and significant trees have special protected status in the tree protection bylaw and are defined by diameter at breast height. But according to the draft plan, the city is in the process of updating its tree inventory, but 92% of the information regarding diameter at breast height is missing. The draft plan's got a report card. It rates tree inventory and knowledge of trees on private property as in progress. Natural areas inventory is poor. A number of other ratings are poor, fair, or insufficient data. Protecting and preserving trees. Recommendation 3, that the city make it a priority to complete and maintain an inventory of trees, with first attention to the location of permit and significant trees within the urban area. Recommendation 4, that until the inventory is completed, staff be assigned to directly inspect each property for which a building permit is being applied for to identify all permit or significant trees on or adjacent to the property. A lot of my interest in this is my direct experience that a monster home was built next to mine. I had trees quite next to the property boundary, and there was construction against the tree protection bylaw, actually inside the canopy of one of the trees and cutting into the critical root zone of many of the trees. If you drive by my place, you can see it. 21814 126th Avenue. When the city arborist first attended, she said, "Oh, they never tell us about these trees being here." Well, I think it's the duty of the city to know if there's a tree that will be affected by construction. Recommendation 4 will help with that. Education about tree protection is from the draft report. Despite the high level of public interest, there might be gaps in effectively engaging all stakeholders, particularly private and landowners who control a significant portion of the urban tree canopy. And it says what's necessary. Developing comprehensive communication and stewardship plans is necessary to bridge those gaps and ensure widespread community involvement. So education about tree protection, recommendation 5, that the city mount a public education campaign informing citizens about the community consensus regarding tree protection in the urban forest, including the responsibilities of homeowners. And recommendation 6, that the city provide in-person information sessions and require all prospective developers and builders to attend at least one. Informing of the high value placed on trees by Maple Ridge and the requirements of the tree protection bylaw. And both of those are trying to prevent things from slipping through the cracks. And I think from a newspaper story from last year, you can see that there's a big problem with that. Consistency within the city administration. While existing frameworks are strong, they might not be fully integrated across all city and regional initiatives. That's how the draft plan puts it. I think in regular language that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, or different city departments or personnel might be working at cross purposes. And I think that the climate task force addressed some of this to get consistency. Recommendation 7, that the city educate its own staff, including those involved in building, bylaws, and planning, of the community consensus in support of tree protection, relevant plans, goals, policies, and bylaws, and the responsibilities for coordinated tree protection. Here's another consistency issue. Existing funding and staffing levels may not suffice to support the ambitious goals of the urban forest management strategy. Recommendation 8, that a city arborist or designated bylaws officer be available every day, including weekends, to monitor tree cutting and respond to complaints. Otherwise, we get trees cut down. Nobody even monitors it. Honoring citizens' priorities regarding the urban forest. The draft plan briefly notes the challenges of densification. There's been a lot of influence coming from above the community, different levels of government, towards densification. But this council is elected to consider the wishes of the citizenry that's here already. Recommendation 9, that before adopting, supporting, or participating in any densification program which threatens the urban forest, that the city conduct a public engagement process, including meetings and surveys, to gauge the wishes of the community citizenry. To review, what the citizens of Maple Ridge want? 90% favor increasing tree canopy over the next 20 years. Only 16% were satisfied with the city's tree protection preservation. Only 5% of survey respondents were satisfied with public education by the city regarding tree protection. What are the responsibilities of the city? Protecting and preserving trees, education about tree protection, consistency within the city administration, and honoring the priorities of Maple Ridge citizens regarding the urban forest and tree protection. And I am asking council to consider these recommendations as ways to deal with problems facing us in terms of protecting and nourishing the urban forest plan. And before I go, there's a novel, some of you have read it, that was written about 100 years ago about the early settler. It is about the settlers, mostly, about the early settler experience of Maple Ridge. And seeing as how the 150th, I think as many people as possible should read this book and be aware of it, especially to learn about what the core, long-lasting character of Maple Ridge is. And the title of this book is The Eternal Forest. And I'm going to make a gift. I don't know if I'll get it back or not. I don't want to see it in the used bookstore. I'm going to make a gift of a loan of this to council. And if you want to pass around council and then the city building, that's fine with me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Is there any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, again, thank you very much for your presentation and your recommendations. Madam Clerk, what's next on our agenda?
Thank you, Worship. Our second delegation this evening is from James Rowley, presenting on how the multi-use recreational facility proposed for Hammond Community Park can fight climate change in its design, construction, and programming, and to consider this project as an opportunity to secure a culturally rich, equitable, and sustainable future for the west side of Maple Ridge. And there is a presentation.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is James Rowley. I live at 11406 205 Street in Maple Ridge. I'm here to speak to you about the opportunities presented by the Hammond Multi-Use Recreation Facility. I think a comprehensive facility close to where people live, accessible to transit, walking or rolling, filled with services benefiting and celebrating all the diverse people in Maple Ridge is essential to the vision of Hammond as a healthy neighborhood. Add a little Maple Ridge Museum, a little Truth and Reconciliation, a little respite for residents suffering at home in a heat wave or a cold snap, a little compassion for neighbors who are going through tough times, and this place could be the pride of Maple Ridge. As you can tell, I'm in favor of building the facility, but I acknowledge those who are opposed. There will be disruption and there will be short-term hardship. My message to you today is to make sure that it is worth it, that it is worth the hardship and worth the trouble. Beyond the benefits I've already mentioned, there are opportunities in this project specifically related to fighting climate change. And I hope you will adopt these as goals. So without further ado, here are 5 goals that you may not have considered, which will save money and save the planet. Number 1, the facility uses 100% renewable energy. Number 2, the ice rink heats the pool. Number 3, the facility heats the community. Number 4, people can leave their cars at home. And number 5, the provincial and federal governments fund the project, or at least the climate parts of the project. Just in case you're thinking, who is this guy and where does he get these crazy ideas? You may have heard of Hammond Forever House, where my wife Leanne and I have lived since 2007. It was built 101 years ago by Carl Whitehead, Leanne's grandfather. And we started a deep retrofit in 2015, and we're now 100% fossil fuel free. So yay for us. Okay. In fact, it's been a year since we traded in Leanne's mom's beloved 2001 Volvo for a second EV. So I'm able to share how much we're paying for a 100% electric lifestyle for a family of 4, 2 teenagers. So just briefly, we insulated and sealed for energy efficiency. The house, the heating, the cooling, the ventilation, the hot water, and now the transportation are all electric. We generate renewable power. We have a 13 kilowatt array of solar panels, and we also preheat our hot water with 2 hydronic solar panels. From May to May, our electricity bill was $1,064.81. Just trying to geek out here for a moment. Here are the rough numbers from BC Hydro. We don't have a battery storage for the solar panels, so whatever power we generate that is not used is shared with BC Hydro. This is an incredibly good deal, by the way. There is no price difference. You simply pay for what you use, and there's no buying and selling price. We visited Finland and talked to some relatives there, and there is a price difference. In fact, the Northern EU fluctuates the buying and selling price for your solar panels. Everybody in Finland, in this northern climate, is putting solar panels on their roof, but they get a much worse deal than we do here with BC Hydro. Okay. So here's recommendation number 1, that the Hammond Recreation Center is 100% renewable energy. The Clean BC Roadmap to 2030 states these goals. All new buildings in BC will be 0 carbon. All new space and hot water equipment will be at least 100% efficient. Just to be clear, that rules out fossil gas. After 2030, there should not be any fossil gas being applied to new buildings. So we're getting awful close to 2030, so we might as well do it now, is what I think. Pictured on the left is the new REC Center in the traditional territory of the Shitatim Nation in Lillooet, BC. 100 kilowatt solar PV energy system. And that's the approach I recommend, by the way. If you've got some roof space, put as many solar panels as you can on the roof space. On the right is a picture of a basic geothermal system, which heats in the winter and cools in the summer. Geothermal makes sense for new construction because you're already digging a hole. All you need to do is drill. A recent example of this is the Lynn Valley Care Center in North Vancouver, which uses a hybrid geothermal and solar system. This works very well because the solar panels power the pumps for the heat pumps for the geothermal. The system has paid its capital cost in 5 years and continues to save on energy costs while reducing its carbon footprint. Okay, goal number 2. The ice rink heats the pool. This goal is really a no-brainer. It's being done widely. These pictures are from Chilliwack, where a heat recovery system now takes waste heat produced by the Chilliwack Coliseum and uses it to heat the pools, hot tubs, and dehumidifiers in the Chilliwack Landing Leisure Center. This was a retrofit, $945,000. Received a total of $700,000 in funding from FortisBC and BC Hydro. So payback is likely less than 5 years. Okay, number 3, the facility heats the community. This is not a new idea. District heating and cooling networks bring heating and air conditioning to many buildings at once, potentially entire neighborhoods or communities. Typically, they do this with a network of underground pipes that exchange the heat with buildings, using water to carry heat inside in the winter and remove heat in the summer. There have been district energy hubs in Vancouver for over 50 years, for example. I think there's one that dates back to like 1900. So as we look to the future of Hammond with increased residential and commercial density, preparing our new facility to be an energy hub in the neighborhood makes sense. So I hope you will ask staff to look into it. Well, now that you've seen it, you can't say that you haven't heard this idea before. That's my point, really. If you think this can't be done, this is a picture of place Okotoks, Alberta, just south of Calgary. People are doing this in colder places than Maple Ridge. Solar energy is stored underground and used to heat homes in the winter. 90% of the heat comes from this energy. Looks cold. Okay, goal number 4, people can leave their car at home. These are images from the Maple Ridge Strategic Transportation Plans for transit and cycling. And then they've got the black arrow there shows where the Hammond Recreation Center is planned to go, the facility. The question is that going to be enough access? Those dotted lines are proposed corridors for cycling. One of the main concerns of Hammond neighbors is increased car traffic. Everyone's saying they're just going to bring a ton of cars into the neighborhood. I'm told that typically transit and bike paths in a city are planned independently from buildings. That seems like a mistake in this case. So I'm asking you to make sure that this facility triggers a review and an upgrade to the transit and active transportation network. We should not need to take our car to go to this recreation facility. It's right over there. Okay, goal number 5. These goals obviously come up with a significant upfront cost, and we cannot do them alone. Here are some of the funding sources that staff can look into. There's a long list, is my point. There's a long list of funding opportunities. Fortunately, the current provincial and federal governments have made funding available for just such ambitious goals. Almost like the more ambitious you get as a community, the more they're willing to fund. So which is exciting. We can hope that future governments will increase funding to climate measures, but we cannot count on it. So we must lock in what we can as soon as possible. So dream big.
Sorry, you're running up to your 10. You got about
Okay.
40 seconds.
Recommendations, here's the summing up. Please, Council, set ambitious climate targets for this project. Please direct staff to explore renewable energy sources, explore heat recovery systems, explore the facility as a district energy hub, and seek out provincial and federal funding sources. And please direct staff to integrate the facility into active transportation and transit networks. Thank you.
Look at that, 7 seconds to spare.
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for your presentation. I remember visiting your Forever House in early 2016 and seeing the challenges that you were facing trying to get to where you wanted to get to. And now, from the last time I visited, where you are, it's like night and day, and the results are there. So, you know, it's very good for you to come here and present this to us. You know, I'm sure that staff have been looking at all sorts of things. We're not at that point to be able to say where it's going just yet. But this will definitely give food for thought to our staff. Thank you very much. I'll open up for any questions for anybody. Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. Just super quick. And maybe this is more a question to staff. I'm wondering if you'll be able to circulate those slides for us. In particular, I'm curious in the one that has the list of all the grants. I'd love to look into them a little bit more. So if we have that and you can forward it, it'd be great. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. It's been a whole climate action day, I tell you, from workshop this morning all
Wonderful.
the way through. So this is very timely for the presentation today, but thank you very much. It was great to see that.
Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. It's actually a very inspiring set of recommendations you've got up there. And I really appreciate like sort of the very concise and also very, I think, actionable things that we've talked about with the district energy. We've really talked about the need to focus, make sure that we respect the needs of Hammond neighbors, which is a very dear neighborhood to my heart, and really think carefully about the transportation networks to that. And the district energy, I just started Googling and I'm just like, now I'm hooked on this idea of how to make that happen. I also, the other thing I just like, just food for thought is the energy bill for your home that you were kind enough to share. I mean, that's pretty good. That is like that's a steal, like in a home with 4 folks and like 2 teenagers. And I appreciate that a lot, because I think as a council, we constantly trying to find that spot where we have ambitious climate goals that also are very respectful of the pocketbooks of our residents. And I think we're finding that spot where we can be ambitious on both fronts. So thank you for that. Thank you for that not little but large piece of inspiration there. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I'll just want to piggyback on what Councillor Tan just said. One of the things from the task force that came up is a retrofit program. We know we have a lot of homes that are they end of life, or can they be retrofitted? And this is the thing. A lot of these homes are affordable because they're older. If we start to tear down those homes, then we lose the affordability. So the retrofit part is extremely important, and we'll be introducing that at a later date. But a lot of that, and you sat in on that portion of that, so thank you for your feedback on retrofits. It's something that I think is going to have to play a key role as we continue to move down the road that we're on with climate action. So thank you very much for your presentation, and you have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk.
Item 7 is the consent agenda. And these are items listed on the consent agenda to be considered for approval in one motion, unless a member of council wishes to discuss an item and requests that it be excluded. Each item removed from the consent agenda will be debated and voted on separately by council.
Thank
The
you.
items are on the screen.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move these items? Moved by Councillor Carrera, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Moving on to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
The next item is 9.1 zoning amendment bylaw number 7996-2024, which are housekeeping amendments to the zoning bylaw number 7600-2019, which is before council for first and second reading and to waive the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Dewick. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Moving on to the next item, please.
Thank you. Item 9.2, zone amending bylaw number 7902-2023 to allow for the future construction of a duplex, which is before council this evening for third reading.
Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Excellent. Moving on to the next item, please.
Thank you. Item 9.3 is zone amending bylaw number 7958-2023 to allow for the future subdivision of 2 lots before council this evening for third reading.
And can I get a motion for this item? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? We've got Councillor Dewick followed. Yeah, followed. Okay, Councillor Dewick.
Probably. So I wasn't at public hearing last week, but thanks to staff, we were forwarded the minutes and I did look at the report. So there was concern, which I'm sure everybody's going to raise this, about neighboring tree, the tree removal and what impact it will have on the neighboring properties. So does staff have an answer to those questions?
Mr. McMullen.
Yes, Your Worship, through the council, we looked into that and looked at the arborist report that was submitted for the development. And the residents were concerned, the ones to the west, to the rear of these lots. And the arborist report does say that those trees could be protected. To ensure protection, we would have to look at putting a covenant along the back of the property, protect those trees. And staff are reaching out to the applicant and the neighbors regarding that.
Okay, so does council need to do anything to ensure that that happens?
No, that's Your Worship, through to Councillor Duick. That was the recommendation of staff to look into putting a covenant on the back of that property to protect the trees.
Okay.
Exactly the same thing. So I just want to follow up on that question. So I know that our arborist has said these things are to be protected. At what point had this been communicated to the developer of the property next door? Are they aware of these issues?
Your Worship, through to council, staff have, the arborist report was done by the actual owner developer of the lot that says the trees could be protected. If they've not already been contacted, we'll be contacting the next day or so regarding that. Then that could be a condition of either the rezoning or the subdivision itself.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Any opposed? No? Oh, I didn't see the green one. Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We move into staff reports. The first item is 11.1 seasonal curbside patio program update, and staff are in attendance to present.
Good evening. So the first curbside patio appeared in Maple Ridge in 2017. Others appeared in response due to the COVID-19 pandemic and actions taken to ensure the hospitality industry businesses could continue to serve customers while meeting physical distancing requirements. Temporary extended service areas, or TESAs, were granted by the province to provide space for distancing while not increasing overall capacity limits. TESAs were required to comply with all local bylaws and policies. And all TESA authorizations are expiring on December 31st, 2024, and businesses wanting to keep the areas will be required to apply for a seasonal patio or a permanent structural change to their license, and again, comply with all local bylaws and policies. On October 24, 2023, Council endorsed the seasonal curbside patio program and guidelines for the implementation in spring 2024 and directed staff to issue notices for the removal of temporary curbside patios located in the public right-of-way by November 10th, 2023, in preparation for the new program's launch this spring. In May this year, Council requested an update of the program uptake, patio inventory, and program support, including practices of other jurisdictions. Since the policy was approved, design consultants were engaged to develop a program design guidelines based on staff research, industry best practices, and the firm's professional experience. Consultants conducted 2 business engagement sessions and an online survey for eligible business participants to provide input. Engagement was promoted via 2 mailouts to eligible businesses and emails to all previous participants. 3 businesses registered for the engagement sessions, and no responses were received via the online survey. Final guidelines were adjusted based on feedback from businesses and staff and posted to the website on February 1, 2024. The seasonal curbside patio program was formally launched on February 1st, 2024, and announced via news release, social media, website, e-newsletter, and dialogue with businesses and business associations, including the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Maple Ridge BIA. The program launch was covered by the news. Design guidelines and the application package were posted to the city's website on February 1st to ensure enough time for businesses seeking approvals from the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch to do so for a full patio season. Staff hand-delivered materials and contacted previous patio operators and businesses that could potentially activate a patio to encourage them to apply under the program. And a demonstration patio was set up at City Hall and is still active to show how easy it can be. 3 applications have been received to May 15th, 2 from previous operators of curbside patios, 1 who will be deploying a new to Maple Ridge patio type, and 1 from a business owner who has never before operated a patio. 2 other businesses have expressed interest, and staff continue engagement to inform and encourage applications. 2 previous patio operators have stated they will not be participating without funding from the city. The City of Port Coquitlam has contacted staff for information on the Maple Ridge program as they develop their own program based on best practices and comparable offerings. So patios on private property that do not require formal approval from the city and are not licensed service areas will not generally be captured by the city's building permit process. These patios are also out of scope of the seasonal curbside patio program. So data has been compiled on a best effort basis from several sources over various points in time, including the Ridge Meadows Chamber of Commerce, the LCRB, the Liquor Cannabis Regulation Branch, the city information, online mapping tools, and walkabouts in the community. Under the seasonal curbside patio program, we have 2 patios approved, 1 in process, and 2 expressions of interest. There's 1 other curbside patio that is outside the scope of the program, but is essentially grandfathered in. And there are 38 patios on private property currently in the city. Patios in Maple Ridge are currently supported through standardized design guidelines and enhanced geographic eligibility, and a simplified application process and personalized client-focused service by economic development staff to help manage the client experience, and low fees, and in some cases, no fees levied by the city. Patios in Maple Ridge are not currently eligible for facade improvement program funding. Only specific business types are patio eligible. Fee waivers are not currently possible, and city-supplied or funded patio structures have not been entertained. Elsewhere, support mechanisms for patios vary widely between municipalities and often include direct financial support to operators to construct and activate their patios, either from municipalities directly or through arm's length groups, including BIAs and tourism organizations, and indirect support through the supply or rental of prefabricated structures, the waiving of permitting fees and charges, eligibility for all businesses, and temporary suspension of normal processes and certain zoning or bylaw requirements, and even enforcement. Details are in attachment A of the report. The seasonal curbside patio program will be reviewed after the respective close of the 2024 and 2025 seasons, and reports will be provided to council in due course. And reviews will then take place every 2 years thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. The recommendation is only to receive for update for information. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Councillor Schiller, seconded by Councillor Carreras. I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Carreras and Councillor Schiller, followed by my eyes go in only so many directions. Councillor Schiller, followed by Councillor Carreras.
Thank you, colleagues. And indeed, we've covered so many of my favorite topics today, and now we get to talk about patios. I was delighted to drive down to 24th this afternoon and see my first patio of the season coming together. And I am happy to have the opportunity to talk about this. So thank you for bringing the report forward. Can you just remind me a bit about the lay of kind of how this program works? So when we talk about this program, what's the geographic area that this program covers? I sort of think of 224th Street, but what's the reality?
Through the chair, it's really citywide. So it's not restricted to 224th Street or just the downtown area. Any business who falls within certain zones, there's about 7 or 8 of them, would be eligible, and assuming there's also space available in the public right of way, either the sidewalk or if there's parking lanes, and if they're not on a major road such as Dewdney Trunk, Lougheed Highway, or Haney Bypass, provided the speed limit does not exceed 50 kilometers per hour. So it's a very wide-ranging eligibility.
Yes, thank you. Okay. And do you happen to know offhand how many patios we had under the extended temporary program that we had previously?
Through the chair, I believe it was up to 5, maybe 6 that were under the temporary program. And utilization of those patios, I'm not certain, but I know there were some that were not used to the fullest extent possible.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask about, you mentioned, like it mentioned in the presentation that a couple of business owners just indicated they wouldn't be participating going ahead. Can you just share a little bit of the feedback that they provided and how the city responded to that?
Through the chair, it was, there were some tough conversations. But they were needed conversations. The business owners, I think, felt a bit, shall I say, hurt. I think from the need to remove the patios to sort of hit that reset from the temporary COVID or the pandemic sort of era patios to get to the point of the new program with the standardization and sort of the broader eligibility. So we engaged in conversations with these business owners. We really reached out and tried to still encourage them that, you know, it might not look, their patio might not look like the same under this program as it was before, but there still was the ability to activate a public space for them. So we're always open to the conversations, and we continue to reach out.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. Okay, I'm just going to mull that over for a minute. I'm good for now. Thanks.
Councillor Crers.
Thank you. And thank you for the refresh. Unfortunately, I watched it online, but I missed the October big report that came back because I was on vacation. Just a couple of questions. One is sort of outside the scope around the private property of 38, which is great. Is that across the entire city?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
And are we seeing the private property patios expand and increase?
I think so.
I know. I know this is outside. I was just curious if those are.
I think there's a growing appetite, either due to the pandemic or just folks wanting to just dine al fresco or just experience life al fresco. I think there's more of an appetite for patio. I think maybe one of the limiting factors could be just the physical constraints of space. If a sidewalk or even internally in a pedestrian flow in a shopping center, if it's not wide enough to allow for safe and accessible passage of pedestrians, they may not be able to do that. But I think there's a lot of creativity and innovation that can be unleashed through the business community by sort of setting guidelines and not necessarily prescriptive requirements for a patio, if you will.
Okay, thanks. And so it looks like we had about 5 to 6 last year or within the temporary. And so it looks like we're possibly at 5 so far. So it's pretty consistent to like close to where it was before.
Through the chair, it is correct that the number is going to be consistent. I think what's interesting is there's a new type of patio that is going to be taking over the full sidewalk of an area. So really expanding the business footprint. And also a business that didn't used to operate a patio is now able to do so in sort of a small footprint, just a couple of bistro sets outside of her business.
And sorry, the one you just mentioned, is that the one that's in the report about deploying a patio topology that's never been used? Is that
correct?
The one that's going to be sort of a patio and piece? Okay, I'm curious to see how that rolls out. Thank you. And just one other question. When I look through the attachment and it talks about all the different supports for different from different municipalities or whatever, I do see that predominantly they come from the BIA. There's very few that are from cities, and the ones that do come from cities there's not as much financial support as there are from the BIAs. Do you know if there's been any discussion with our BIA? And our BIA is awesome, and they're so active. And I know they've been, great champions of this. Has there been any discussion for them to be able to offer any of the grants? I mean, we're a small BIA too, so I do appreciate that. But has there been any discussions around the BIA or other organizations helping with grants?
We have had sort of initial forays, just sort of positing it to them and seeing if there would be any openness. And I think there would be openness if we could expand the facade improvement or other programs to enable the activation for businesses.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tan.
Thanks, Mayor. And thank you for the presentation. I don't know if anyone has told you that you have a fantastic broadcaster voice, and I expect that kind of voice coming out of CBC.
I
So it's-
concur. I was thinking the same thing.
So I'm just letting the CBC wash over me right now. I love that phrase you use, live al fresco, because I think like I too was excited to see the staff report come through, because I think that it's about patios, and I think for me it's about broader than that. It's about placemaking. I was looking at the appendix that you kindly attached, and one of the supports, I think, was Lethbridge, Alberta. They talked about placemaking and rather than just patios. And so for me, the framing I'm using is about a vibrant downtown, about bringing folks out, and so that when they go down 224 or really other commercial areas in the city, like they see folks kind of out and about, and they, you can kind of like do a sort of Belgian style, sit on the sidewalk and watch other people drink coffee. I mean, that's kind of the lens I'm coming from. I think the other lens I'm coming from is, I remember, I think we all got this in our mailboxes a few months ago, Save BC Restaurants. Remember that package you said, the unhappy hour? And it was the campaign from the BC Restaurants Association, who just wrote us today about another thing. And they talked about how I think this has been staying with me, about how 48% increase of restaurant bankruptcies in the last 10 months, and how over 50% of our food service and hospitality businesses, when I say ours, like it's the BC Restaurant Association, so I don't know the number specific for our community, but over 50% are unprofitable. And so like that, those numbers really shook me, because that's gonna hit our community hard if that continues to play out. So, I mean, I just went through their very, very cleverly titled things like entrees menus, and they have a takeaway menu at the end. And the takeaway, they ran through a few municipal policies that they would encouraging local governments to look at. They asked us to clearly define approval times, collaborative compliance achievement. And there's also one point there about streamlined permanent patio approvals. And I think that's a discussion point for us as a community. And there are certainly many types of businesses in our community that we all collectively that make up a community. So this one here, just reading it verbatim from the takeaway menu, it says, streamline permanent patio approvals, make it easier for establishments to transition temporary patios into permanent features, and consider a 3-day approval system. So this is the lens I'm using to sort of look at our patio program. So I think coming from this, I'm seeing that I took a quick look at our application form, and I see that for the very quick and easy sort of patio program, staff will contact you in 2 days. And for types B, C, D, staff will contact you in 15 business days. And I see that sort of like, folks, industry will always lobby us for what they need, which is wonderful. And we can't always comply, but I see like I think what I'm seeing is that we as a council, I think, are committed to a vibrant downtown. And I think the reality for our province and our food service and hospitality communities that they're struggling right now, given the pandemic and all the tolls that the pandemic inflicted on them. So I think that's the broad lens. So I think coming back down to patios, I think, I hear that there are a few things that have transpired in our community, right? Where there's a temporary system set up and we sort of put together a program that was quick. Businesses may have perceptions about how that program ended. That sort of, two businesses have put in an application. We're sort of in process of talking to one of them. 2 of them have kind of expressed interest, but haven't put in an application form. I assume that by this point in the summer, if they're not putting in an application form, I don't know if that's coming through. If it is, it's wonderful, I think. So I guess to sort of pull it all together, I would love to see us I love that it was coming back to review for us. And I think this season will roll out the way it rolls out. But I would really love this to come back to us by the end of this year, in Q4 of this year. And so that we can sort of calibrate a patio program, look at what other municipalities are doing, which you have provided the appendix for, from that lens of how do we create a vibrant, thriving hospitality and food service industry to the best of our ability as local government. We can't do anything about the pandemic related that, but to the best that we can do, so that with a vibrant downtown. So I leave that there, where I would love to see this come back in Q4 of this year with more stats on what looked like going through, if you could sort of go through the Save BC Restaurants campaign and like you have done with other municipalities, and come back to us and how do we make this better. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Chair. Just reflecting a bit on this discussion, in some ways, these patios are about the individual businesses, but I've just sort of been reflecting on the benefit to the community and the role of the community in terms of, building this vibrant downtown and building a downtown that invites people to come down to it and to stay down to it. And there's so many benefits to the city, to us doing that. We're promoting so much community development, local economic development. So in some ways, I kind of feel like we're being a bit hands off with this. So I'm glad to see it now. I'm glad it's going to come back in the fall where we can sort of look at this first year of this new program, not a problem, but this program. For myself, I am interested when staff come back to hear some ideas about indirect support. I think that sort of, for me, it fits in with where I see the city kind of needs to support this, not necessarily financial, but is there some sort of organizing role? I imagine it's a lot for a small business owner to take on, like ordering lumber and storing it somewhere and hiring, and can we kind of make some efficiencies there? That would be another way of supporting this, because again, I just see it being really important to a lot of our goals. So I just want to just put that out there. I'd also love it if we could think of some ways of sort of measuring the success of the program. And I was thinking about this earlier, and I thought it would be great if we had a target about increasing the number of patios. And it is tricky because there's a lot of factors that are beyond our control. But if staff could kind of reflect on that, and maybe we can track like the number of inquiries we get about it, or something like that, because I think what I sort of feel like is this program is still new, and so I want us to keep a close eye on it, and just look at ways that we can, it's off on its way, but I don't want to just let it go out there in the world and say, oh, we're done with that one. For me, I don't feel like it's done. I feel like there's more we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Tan and Councillor Schiller about we should always look at ways to increase the vibrancy. And I think that also is incumbent of us as we look forward to the development that we're doing within our community. And when we're looking at along the Lougheed corridor and along Dewdney, and in particular in downtown, when we're doing the new densification pieces and the redevelopment of older buildings, that I think it would be great for us to take a lens of, is there enough space to have an outdoor patio, and think about that and build that into the designs. I think that just helps us in a go forward space where it's at the beginning steps. Right now, we're just trying to fit it into something that was not built for patios, and we're trying to find a way to do this. But going forward, if it can be, a lens that we're taking a look at, I think that would be helpful for increasing our patio space throughout. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comments or questions, can I just get we've already have a motion. All those in favor to accept this motion for information, motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The next item is 11.2, the 2024 Strategic Work Plan Quarterly Report for Q1 2024. There is no presentation, but staff will present and answer any questions of council.
You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. So what you have before you attached to the agenda this evening is your first quarterly update out of the Enterprise Performance Management System. This is actually one of your objectives and key results. So what it is actually a snapshot in time of the progress that's been made on the 113 initiatives that comprise your strategic work plan across 5 priority areas. This is the first iteration of this report. Over time, what you'll see is that we'll actually have various points in time represented on the report. So you'll actually see what the last report update was, and then the most recent report update, to be able to really identify what progress has been made. Additionally, we'll be translating this into an online platform and a community dashboard for public consumption, so that it's not just in a static format, but much more accessible to all the users on our website. Having said that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions on the items within the report.
You had enough talking to us all day today, right? Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Councillor Youssef to receive it. Yeah, sorry, to receive it. Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Any comments or questions? Councillor Carreras.
I may have missed it in the report, but what do all these colored dots and check marks mean? I kind of need, it would be great if there was a code to tell us what they all mean.
We are working with the vendor to make sure that that actually appears on the report. So the blue dot indicates that the item has not started. A green dot is the item is on track and progressing. A yellow dot identifies that the item requires some attention from staff. A red dot means that there is something that needs to be completely, that the item needs to be reviewed by staff and some intervention is required. So of note, there's an item that was not funded as part of the annual budget planning process. That item was listed as a red, just to inform council as well as the public that the item was not advanced. We're retaining that on our work plan as it is anticipated that it will be revisited as a strategic initiative in the 2025 planning cycle. So we want to make sure that we have that continuity in reporting.
And the check marks? Because I was like, I think I got the color code down and then I came across check marks.
A check mark means that it is complete.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you for this. I know we've been asking for this. This is great. I'm wondering if in future, is there, and I think you may have mentioned this, that we can have it sorted by, like this is sorted by strategic initiative.
Priority.
Is there a way to sort it by date too? So we see what's coming at us by which date?
Through the chair to Councillor Carreras. So there's a couple pieces here. This is a retrospective. We can definitely resort this report so that you can see it by date, and the online functionality will actually provide that sorting feature. The additional component is that we are building out some additional systems that will enable us to provide you with a forecast of items that are coming forward to council in the near future. That's a complementary piece of work and report that will help inform council, and these two pieces together provide you a history as well as foresight into what's coming.
Awesome, thank you, because I think it's really helpful for us to kind of know what's coming up. And then even those, and we've talked about this before, those legislative pieces that aren't necessarily part of our strategic direction, they're just part of what we're required to do as an organization. So thank you very much, it's very helpful.
Okay, Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. We'll keep you out here for another 2 hours to discuss this item. This is very helpful, as Councillor Carrera said, and I am curious about the updating these OKRs. I know that many of them came out of our budget cycle. And I know, for example, I'm looking specifically at the housing ones, which I know we've discussed as a table before. We had discussed, and the reason why the framework I'm coming from is that I want to make sure that when the community looks at this, they know that they're confident that these are the objectives and key results that council I think are the top priority for each item. And I know that when we first looked at the OKRs, it came up at Thanksgiving weekend last year, and we really just only did a quick touch on this and didn't go into each OKR to make sure that that was specifically the ones we wanted. I'm looking specifically at the ones around the housing ones. And could staff give me an update of when we're revisiting those OKRs?
Through the chair to Councillor Tan. At this point, I will not be providing you with a specific date. There's a number of different factors that will be playing into that conversation, both legislative, but also operational. And so what we want to be able to do is provide council with an opportunity to have that fulsome discussion about what should targets from a housing perspective actually look like, and how do we need to adjust our OKRs related to housing to better reflect the current circumstances as opposed to the circumstances that existed when OKRs were first introduced and adopted.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, because we have had seen the housing needs report come through, and we have seen the draft housing action plan come through. And I know we just discussed that the last touch point was in April. And I know the draft housing plan, even though it's still in draft, the actions don't completely match up with what we see in OKR. Some of them do. Particularly some of these goals, like secure 30 below market housing units, those were, I think, just almost placeholders that we had put in. And I just want the community to be sure that the numbers and the targets they see here are confident that council has thoroughly debated them. And I don't think we've quite had a chance to do that. So I look forward to discussing that at an early opportunity. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to take a moment to just acknowledge, I feel like this is a quantum leap forward in terms of information sharing. For council, certainly, I'm literally getting updated on certain things by looking at this report right now. But also for the public and to be able to say, you know, here's our priorities, here's our specific goals that we are trying to achieve that speak to our priorities, and here is the update on that within a few months. I that is, in my experience so far, beyond what we've been able to produce in the past. I just really want to acknowledge all the work that has been done to get us to this point. And I think too, this more frequent reporting, like having these quarterly updates scheduled, just speaking to some of Councillor Tan's points, just allows us to respond and be flexible to changing conditions. And I think that's going to be really beneficial to us. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments or questions, can I call the question? All those in favor of receiving the report, motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And now we're going to move on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Next item is the public question period. Participants in public question period are reminded that there should be no discussion of public hearing bylaws which have not yet reached conclusion. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to council. A second opportunity may be provided once all speakers in the queue have had an opportunity to speak. The total time allotted for public question period is 15 minutes. If you wish to inquire about additional opportunities to address council, please contact the corporate officer. For members of the public in attendance in council chambers wanting to participate in the public question period, please come forward to the microphone, state your name and city of residence for the record before beginning and addressing your comments to the mayor. For members of the public participating electronically, please register as a speaker by raising your hand, turning on your camera, and clearly stating your name and city of residence for the record before you begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'll ask anybody in the audience in chambers who wish to come up and speak, state your name and your place of residence, please.
Hi, my name's Jennifer McClintock and I live in Maple Ridge.
You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Maple Ridge Council. As a property taxpayer, I am concerned about the way Maple Ridge is spending its resources. We spent $6,405 for a rainbow crosswalk on 224th Street in July 2016. The latest upgrade costs $15,330. A regular crosswalk costs approximately $1,600. Why are we engaging in political statements at 10 times the regular cost? Regarding the city's logo rebranding is going to cost us approximately $60,000. What is the benefit to the city? Will we receive an honest accounting of this money when it goes over budget? Mayor Rumi's expenses were $15,000, more than double what the policy allows. $3,800 was spent on a trip to Ottawa under the banner of Maple Ridge Moves. To what benefit? During COVID, business was conducted by Zoom and teleconferencing across the country. Why was this not the option for the Ottawa trip? We are picking up the tab for the new police required when Pitt Meadows decouples from our services. Why is that? I am very concerned about the money being spent by the city in this very difficult economic climate. Teachers are speaking of children coming to school with no breakfast or lunch and not having proper gym shoes, etc. Hardworking families are lining up at the food bank. Businesses are closing because they cannot afford to keep their doors open. Seniors like myself are finding it more and more dangerous to walk the streets of Maple Ridge. I am a senior on fixed income. Many are on lower incomes. Where's your advocacy for those that can't pay all these tax increases? Telling me I can defer property taxes is not an answer. Better fiscal management is the answer. Thank you. And I'm hoping I can get a reply, so I'll leave this.
Thank you very much. You actually had quite a bit of questions there. That would not be possible to answer all those questions in this format. But we have a copy of that information, so we will try to answer our best ability to that. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to anybody else that wishes to speak. Step up, state your name, and you have 2 minutes.
Steve Ranta, 21814 126th Avenue, Maple Ridge. 150th anniversary of Maple Ridge. Everybody's talking about history. We're sitting in a place with a history. This council chamber. It's a beautiful place. In some ways, it's the pride of the community. When I sit in here, I remember concerts. I remember public forums. I remember First Night. I remember Cinema Politica documentaries and discussions and guest speakers. Great acoustics, great setup. It's designed as a public forum. Stage, audience. Everybody can see each other talk. 16 councils have welcomed the public into here, public groups to come in here and use it. 16 councils since 1981. I think most of the mayors from here on, looking down on us, they welcomed it in here. Last month, this council ended that history abruptly. There was some concerns about new equipment getting jostled or whatever. Maybe somebody might bump into a table. That's one of the concerns I heard. Of course, council spent 20 minutes debating a policy whether to exclude all public groups from using this lovely, it's going to be heritage space, this beautiful thing designed as a forum and has been used by many in the public. Council did consider the history and the public interest in that 20 minutes. This was the complete content of the history and public interest. Local groups used to use it. Let's count. Local groups used to use it. 3 seconds. Does council consider that does council consider that 3 seconds was
Mr.
adequate?
Ranta, let's not
Anybody
do
else
this
coming
again.
up?
Your time is up. Thank you very much. Okay. Is there anybody online that wishes to speak? None? Okay. Please sit down. If there's other people that want
Last time I
to,
was here, they said, please approach the microphone.
if
did
there's
hear the
other people
instructions
that
today.
wish to come forward, you will
Chair,
not intimidate
Chair,
other people
I
in this
didn't hear
chamber,
the
sir.
instructions today.
Please sit down until I ask you, anybody else that would like to come
Well,
up.
why don't you follow the instructions?
Sir, there's other people in this chambers. Why do you think you have the right
Because
to
the last
surpass
instruction
everybody
I
else in
heard
this chamber?
was that people
Please
who want
sit
to ask a
down.
question should approach the
Please
microphone.
sit
No,
down.
You asked me a question. I want to answer.
Please sit
You-
down.
The last time I was
Sir,
here.
Sit
the
down
last
or I'll
time
have
I
you
heard
removed
that
from
you
this chamber.
approach the-
I will have you removed from this chamber once again.
You're breaking the bylaw once again.
No,
You're
sir.
later
Sit
than
down
you learn.
and wait to see if there's anybody else that wants a chance to speak.
Where is the instruction to wait to sit
Oh,
down?
enough.
Last instruction I
Enough.
heard
Thank
was
you very
can
much.
Wait by the microphone.
Thank you very much. There is somebody at the podium
I
right now.
agree, but why don't you follow the last instruction?
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Please state your name, please.
I consider that to be.
Enough, sir. One more and you will be removed. End of story. Enough. We've gone through this with you before. We will not do this again. Enough.
What's the policy, bylaw officer?
Okay, can you please remove this gentleman
I'm
from,
not going. The policy is. that
sir, you are
the
interrupting.
policy
You
was
will,
That you approach the microphone if you want to speak. I approached the microphone because I wanted to speak. I'm sitting down now, somebody else can talk. I asked you, why aren't you following the rules? I'm sitting down.
obviously, there's other people that want to speak
I'll
too.
let him speak. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving if the chair is not following the rules. Look, what's the policy say? Can you read it to me? No, that's not the policy.
Yeah, we're going to move on to the next question.
That's not the policy. The chair should be following the policy.
Mr. Ranta, be respectful. He has said he's gonna go to the
I'm
next
sitting and
speaker.
you can talk.
Stop
Wow.
talking, please, so we can hear the next speaker.
Steve, this is a personal question. And I would appreciate Yes, my question is for mayor and council, but I would like to appeal to Mr. Ranta. James Rowley, 11406 205 Street, one of the teenagers in Hammond Forever House went through a very difficult time, grade 8, grade 9. I have a trans child. I'd like to, I don't know if I can frame this in a question. When a trans child sees a crosswalk in their hometown, it makes an incredible difference. My child went through grade 8, grade 9. We did not know if they would survive. So I just want to thank my mayor and council for including and making it a priority that this community welcome everyone and be open to everyone, and not to hide it, but to be clear, knowing that that kind of gesture, that kind of inclusiveness, a signpost, a flag, a sidewalk, is celebrated by the people who need it in their hearts. And you are saving lives, and I think that is worth the cost.
Thank you for that. It's important to recognize the impact our decisions have on the vulnerable community. And when we do these little things, unfortunately, it doesn't resonate with a lot of people, but it resonates with the people who matter the most. And those are the ones who are feeling vulnerable. Those are the ones who are feeling challenged. So thank you for recognizing that. We really appreciate it. Okay, I will put the call out for another speaker. Please state your name.
Hello, my name's Verity Howarth. I live on 228th in Maple Ridge. I want to just thank James for his comment about the sidewalk. I too am very happy when I see that sidewalk. And it means a lot that you've updated it to include other forms of the queer community that weren't on there before. So thank you for that. And it's not just to celebrate, but it's also a marker that we won't accept violence against those communities and that we support them. Sorry.
Take your time. Take your time.
I know my 2 minutes is eating up. But my question is just, could the council please, this is related to what Steve was talking about. Could the council describe to me the public consultation they considered and did before barring the public from using our own facility for events? I'd like to know who you consulted in the public and how. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I stay here?
You can stay there. I'll give you an answer. Look, we've had correspondence with both of you and Mr. Ranta as well. You know, we talk about history. History is very different from today than where it was 100 years ago. We just witnessed London Drugs being shut down for a week to cybersecurity. As you can see, there are computers in here. There is a whole network of computers and systems that can be vulnerable. To open it up without supervision is inviting a problem. As it stands right now, things like memory keys don't even work in computers because they're locked off. It's a very real concern. We are seeing almost on a weekly basis other communities that are being targeted through their network system. And the last thing that we want to see is our network system being shut down. And that's the difference from where it was pre-COVID. We didn't have all these computers here, right? So to have unsupervised people in here is a security risk. And then if we bring in security, well, now there's a cost to that. Because you're not going to bring in somebody for 1 hour. That's just doesn't the way the labor legislation works. So you'd have to have somebody here for 4 hours as an example, right? And this is what we were talking about before. So, it's unfortunate, but we had no choice because of our system setup that we passed a bylaw, that a policy that said that council chambers are only for council because of what you see over here.
Thank you for explaining that. And just as a final comment, I would say that it sounds like no public was consulted. And also that I work in public health and public education where there's actually some of the most sensitive private information available on computers, and the public is not barred from using those spaces. They find ways to manage it every day. So I would just challenge that. I think we can do better, and there are ways we could make this space available to the public, not just Cinema Politica that I'm involved in, but the like Toastmasters and youth groups and other like Fraser Health and other educational things could be happening here. I heard Dr. Gabor Mate here speaking on mental health, and those kind of things are valuable, and we don't have many spaces in Maple Ridge where education happens like that for adults. So that's my closing comment. Thank you.
Thank you
for
very much.
listening and for your explanation.
Thank you very much. Okay, looks like 50 minutes are up. Sorry?
1 minute left.
You have 1 minute left.
I noticed that the chair does not follow the rules for public question period. I sent many emails to his office. I was glad to see that I believe the clerk in one meeting that I was at read the rules out. I think the rules should be clear to everybody. I think the chair should treat everybody fairly and equally and not allow personal bias to allow certain people to talk longer and not change the rules arbitrarily. Second thing, will the Cinema Politica send emails asking to meet with the people responsible for the equipment in the room? Will the council allow Cinema Politica or encourage the staff to allow Cinema Politica to meet with people who are in charge of the equipment? We made a suggestion that we could use some of our own equipment as well. Will council encourage staff to meet with us about the equipment and about what equipment we can bring and what security measures we can take as already sent by email?
Thank you for your input. Thank you very much.
Is there an answer?
We have a policy that we've already put in place. We've explained that policy on numerous occasions, so I don't feel the need to go any further into that. Thank you very much, though, for your input.
So my understanding
Okay.
is you won't have staff meet with us that know about the security and equipment, even though we've offered to meet.
Quite
and try to
frankly,
reach a
sir, we have an
solution.
IT department that takes care of our IT.
We would like to meet with them.
That doesn't work that way. Thank you very much. We are done on our 15 minutes. What's next on our list, please?
The next item is Mayor and Council verbal reports.
Okay. Anybody wish to give a verbal report? Councilor Schiller.
Thank you, Mayor Remy. Just a quick update. Last week, I attended the meeting of the Fraser Valley Regional Board. It's just our regular meeting, and that organization is moving forward with their budget process. And last week, I also attended the Maple Ridge Business Improvement Association, AGM. It was a great opportunity to meet some new business owners and to hear from our local businesses. And I swore in the directors for the upcoming year, which was a great mix of returning and new directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carreras.
Thank you. I attended the Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows Arts Council meeting this week, and there's some really amazing things coming up, and I just want to share with the community. One is the new season is set. I still cannot share anything with you, but it is going to be fantastic. So please keep an eye on the website and your emails to see when those tickets go on sale. A couple other things I just want to mention is the summer program for the Arts Council went on their website on May 21st. Registration started today, the 28th. There's a new exhibition that just opened, which is close to my heart. It's the Window into the Future. It's SD42 student exhibition. And this is from May 25th until June 20th. And this is the students within the school district. And I have had the opportunity, I haven't seen this particular one, but over the years, I have seen the amazing artwork that's been produced by the students. And I encourage you to support the young folks in our community and check it out. And then the other thing I just want to let people know is on June 12th, there is an unveiling event of a beautiful window installation to celebrate the 20th anniversary. Two other things I just want to share just quickly. I'm sure someone else will speak to this, but we come to the end of Public Works Week, and I had the opportunity to go to the open house that was held on Saturday. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. It was amazing. It was such a great opportunity to chat with staff, to hear about the work that they do, see the different instruments and I don't know, vehicles that they use. Kids were climbing in and out of these vehicles and getting their photos taken. And it was such a great day. There were a lot of smiles, even though, I don't know, it was torrential rain, but there were a lot of smiles that day. The only other thing I want to share is, this is another thing that's sort of close to my heart, is today is World Menstrual Health Day. And this is just from the United Way of British Columbia website on period poverty. Health of everyone who menstruates in BC, women, girls, non-binary people, and trans folks have struggled to buy products at some point in their life. That's half of everyone. More than a quarter have gone through a period without having menstrual products whatsoever. And I am really grateful to the city for providing products in the public washrooms of the city, like we do toilet paper, for folks to experience, and not even, for people who menstruate that can't afford it, but also for those unexpected opportunities that happen. So thank you. I appreciate it. We didn't have to do a big thing. It was just the right thing to do, and it was done. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ten.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to say what a wonderful Rock the Block event that we had at CUP part, our very first celebration for Maple Ridge 150, and just wonderful. In council speak, I think it's vibrancy of our public sphere. I think regular people would say it was just fun. And I just thought it was wonderful. And I wanted to thank staff for all the work that went into that. And I wanted to say that it's so wonderful to see Maple Ridge being the place where families can get out like that. The playground and the courts were just packed, and it was just really wonderful to see. And I also just wanted to read into the record what a wonderful moment it was to have both Carol Suyuki on the stage, as well as Colleen Pierre, the elder from Katzie Nation, and they talked about both. I think it was a powerful moment. We talked about how, it's two communities in our community that have experienced land being taken away. And it was just such a beautiful thing to see two elders from the Japanese Canadian community and also from the Indigenous community come together to celebrate this moment that was really special to both communities and to, I think, the larger and to all of Maple Ridge. So what a wonderful thing. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other further reports? Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that Adopt a Block was fantastic. Like, what a beautiful park, and the Public Works Week. It was really exciting to see all the families that were attended, and especially the weather was not very good, but there was a lot of families there. The staff were at every one of the tents were just really welcoming and really helped people understand what role they play, what it is they do, why we need the trucks that we do, and all of that. So it was really awesome to see. I toyed with whether I want to do this, but I'm going to do this. I think it's important. Public question period is exactly what you were trying to do. It was intended that you have 15 minutes. Everyone in the audience or online has an opportunity to speak. First round is over. If there's time left over, second call. So you didn't do anything wrong. I don't need to defend you, but for the record, for people that are listening, that is public question period. Everyone has one opportunity. If there's more time, they have a second time. So just to clarify for public record.
Thank you. Seeing there's no further comments or questions, we have no further business. We will adjourn for the evening. Thank you all very much for your input.